Brilliant. So welcome,
So,
Steph, and little tiny Ellen, who's what, 5 weeks now, I think you said.
yeah,
Yeah, and Steph is first time mum and had a home birth, and she really kindly agreed to join me and just talk about home birth because I think sometimes, particularly first time mums, I often hear they say, well, maybe it's my second, I'm not so sure about my first, and they feel quite anxious around the logistics of it and stuff. So I thought it'd be great if you could just chat through your experience of it, which is really super positive, even though you said that things didn't go 100% to plan. It didn't matter. It was such a positive, lovely, lovely experience, and that's just great. So I thought we could just chat through that, really.
yeah, great.
Yeah. So what made you decide? At what point did you think I quite fancy a home birth? Was it something you read, or were you just?
I think even before we like started talking about having a family, I'd just always thought a home birth would be really lovely because you're in your own environment. I'd watched a lot of Call the Midwife,
Oh yeah.
um, and just knew that that's where I'd feel most peaceful and relaxed.
Mm,
So me and my husband did a 6-week hypnobirthing course, and the more I learned about the physiology of kind of the chemicals and your oxytocin release, and I was trying to think like where is the optimal environment for me to feel the most settled to do that,
mm,
um, and where would I feel safest? And for me, that was home. Um, so that kind of began the conversation with my husband about having a home birth. So I think I'd always thought about it, but the more I learned about my physiology, I definitely
makes
knew
sense.
it's right for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
And was your husband keen at first, or was he a bit nervous, or did you have
He was
to?
actually really nervous
Yeah.
because of the safety angle and understanding like what it looked like and the practicalities of it. So what we did was got in touch with a couple of other mums and dads who'd recently had home births and went and had coffees with them. It was in a small window where we were allowed to meet other people indoors,
Yeah.
um, and chatted through their experiences as well. And it's good that we had quite a range of experiences of home births where um, complications, no complications, and just getting a full picture of it, so that we could make an informed decision. And the more we talked, the more my husband was like, yeah, let's do it. It seems right for you. And if it's right for you and it's right for you feel like it's right for baby as well, like I'm fully on board to support you with it.
Yeah, I think it's really handy to speak to other parents, isn't it? I know at the moment I know there's been some Zoom chats where you can speak to other parents, and some hospitals do it. I mean, where you meet the home birth team via Zoom or hopefully in person again soon. That really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's usually
Yeah.
important to like look at different people's experiences and watch videos as well. Like I watched a lot of videos, um,
Mm.
did a lot of reading, like really tried to make sure I was really informed to make the decision because I don't think it's what something that I wanted to do really lightly.
Yeah, exactly. So
Um,
you could always look back thinking, I know it was an informed decision and I felt good about it and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Did you have your midwife checks at home thereafter? Did they?
No, actually, we had them at a community centre, but it's only like 8 minutes walk from our flat.
Uh-huh.
So they still did those. I know some friends they had their home visits, all the checks, but we did actually ours at a community centre and it was great.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the same midwife all the times, given that it was COVID. But it didn't actually really matter. The ones that came on the day were absolutely amazing. I felt fully supported and fully like they were listening, which is really important.
Mhm. Yeah. And did you have to? I know people often say, "Oh, it's a house. If you live in a flat, is that okay?" And logistics and things like that. But I've very rarely heard that a house isn't suitable or a flat isn't suitable. They came around they come around and have a look and.
Yeah, they came around and did a home birth assessment, and it, like risk assessed everything. So we actually live on a 4th floor flat with no lift. So that was a consideration for like if there was an emergency or if even carrying their equipment. They've got a lot of equipment to bring up, and parking and things like that outside the flat they were looking at. But even that, it wasn't classified unsuitable at all. Like it's like my husband was on hand to carry things up the stairs if needed. We had a plan in place for parking outside. Yeah, they were super on board and really supportive of us doing it. So it was just finding more like problem solving little bits that might have been teething. It wasn't like definite no.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great to have that assessment and chat through practicality of what it looked like with them as well.
Yeah, and to kind of drop equipment around and things
Yeah,
like that. You hired a pool, didn't you, for your?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great. So hired it, and then we didn't actually. You can order an extra liner if you want, so you can have a full-on trial run. But we just inflated it in advance, kind of mapped out where we'd want the room, chatted to the midwives, took pictures, took it to them. Does this work practically for you? Can you get around? how many sides do you need access to, just really chatting to the midwives about what works for you and for them. So we hired a pool and put that in the lounge, and I had like positive affirmations all on the wall as well, and tea lights and fairy lights everywhere, just to make it a really lovely, calm, beautiful like birth environment. So that was great.
Yeah, and I know some people say, oh, how do you enter the pool? Did you get one of those reversing things on you put on the hose and just put it down the
Yes, it came with everything actually. It was amazing. It came with even like mirrors, it came with the hose so you can fill it up. We actually got a mini pool, so it was like 2.5 baths, so it hardly took any time at all to fill, probably like half an hour, 40 minutes. And then afterwards they've got the reverse hose, so it just literally connects to your tap to fill, and then when you're reversing out it goes just down the toilet, so it's no mess, really easy. My husband found it completely problem free. And super great. It just comes in a box, and then FedEx come and pick it up. You just pack it up and FedEx come and take it away, and that was it. There was no difficulties at all with that.
That's a good thing about them. It's the only way you can actually guarantee to get a water birth, isn't it? By hiring the pool, it's all yours. And
exactly, yeah. You're not worrying, like, because obviously the midwife assessment, midwife-led units was kind of our second choice, I guess. You want to say hello? You're joining the call. So that was kind of our second choice. And even then, like, you wouldn't be guaranteed a pool. So it was really lovely knowing, like, this is my pool. I can inflate it when I want. We can do a trial run if we want. And just have a real sense of what your birth space would be like, because you couldn't visit at the time due to COVID. We couldn't have visited any like midwife-led units. So I just knew where I was giving birth. I knew what it would feel like. I knew where my pool would be. So for me, it was really special knowing that and being able to have a real active role within creating that environment for myself.
Making that space your homely little nest.
Yeah, it literally was creating a little nest. And we can chat more about it, but on day 2 of the labour, I actually got a really severe migraine. And it was just really lovely. Just the whole day, we just closed the blinds, stayed in that birth space, got the fairy lights on, really relaxed and unwound until it passed, and I had control of my contractions and felt like I could focus back on giving birth rather than the migraine. But it was really lovely. Like, I just remember it sounds like horrendous, right? You're going through contractions, you've got a migraine, and all I remember it was being a really beautiful day with my husband, just sat in the birth space.
Oh, that could be
so. The environment makes such a difference.
Oh, massive! It just completely.
Yeah.
100%. I know some people are worried, but what about, it's going to be a messy event? But it's not the messy event people expect it to be. And did you just put things like shower curtains on the floor, or how did you?
Yeah, we had a shower curtain on the bed, and then we had a mattress topper on top, because I didn't want to be like lying on plastic, just so it felt cozy as well if I wanted to be in there. And then we had a spare shower curtain for the sofa, and then we had big tarpaulin on the floor under the pool as well, and we had like bath mats down and things like that. And the midwives brought lots of Conti sheets, they brought massive sheets for the bed. So between us, it was really mess free. And at the end, the midwives clean up absolutely everything. Obviously the birth pool is your responsibility to kind of empty and pack away, which my husband did, but everything else the midwives took away with them. So it really isn't as messy or as you think. There's obviously quite a bit of equipment, but yeah, they take it all the way at the end anyway.
Yeah, and you had 2 lovely midwives with you for most of the birth, or did the second one just come along towards the end when you were getting close to birthing?
Yeah, absolutely. Our second one, so it was, I actually started contractions on the Wednesday evening. I was on a walk at Crystal Palace Park, and I thought, hello, I think that's a contraction. So that started on the Wednesday, and it was late on the Thursday evening that we rang the midwife assessment unit up at Prue, and it was about 1 o'clock. Someone came out to assess me, and I was 3 centimetres. And they went away, and it really ramped up quick while they went away for an hour. So we actually rang them back and was like 45 minutes later, bring the gas and air, we think it's ramping up. So they came back, and the other midwife joined within a couple of hours. And then I had the same 2 midwives then until the shift change at 8 a.m. And then 2 more midwives came straight away together. And they made sure there was a really good handover between them, so I didn't feel like dropped by one and picked up by another. It just felt like a team around me to make sure that I had the best birth possible. Like it didn't feel like bad at all during that shift change. It was really lovely.
Seamless. And I mean, how amazing care to have two midwives, one to focus on you, one to focus on the baby, and both of them to kind of
absolutely incredible. And they monitor you so regularly. Like I felt completely safe in the care, and they were so encouraging. And because they didn't have to be, but I really wanted them just sat by me. So they were sat on the sofa while I was in the pool, and they were just really encouraging. And one could be like taking notes as well, and they do take a lot of notes. Taking those, but also just they watching you at every step, so they really get to know you, get to know how you're handling your contractions or surges, however you want to call them. Get to really closely monitor. So they were monitoring me every 15 minutes throughout, and then towards the end every 5 minutes, and really keeping a close eye on Ellen as well. So yeah, it really felt really cared for.
That's great. And I often say to parents, like even the tiny part of them thinking, shall I, shan't I? Just book the home birth, because you could book it today, cancel it tomorrow. You could book it today, you can cancel it in the throes of labour. And
you could change your mind right on the day. Like they said to me, if you go into labour, and even if you get halfway through labour and you think, I don't want to be at home anymore, I want to go in, you can transfer at any time. So I think what you said, Jackie, on one of the messages, like see it as labouring at home as long as you can.
Yeah, I'm going to
however long you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We just rode with it. And I definitely did not want to transfer. I was loving being at home. Yeah,
definitely. It's a way of reframing. I'm going to labour at home and see how I go.
Yeah.
And that's,
no pressure on yourself at all, like, because you've no idea how you're going to feel in the moment. But we knew that if we changed our minds, we could go up to the midwife-led unit. If I would rather be on the labour ward, I could have asked to be on the labour ward, and it was just whatever felt right for us at that time.
Yeah, and did they talk about transfer? Quite a high transfer rate for the first time. I was at 45%. Did they talk you through what might happen if you wanted to go in? Like, would they? What did they say to you about that? Should you want to?
Yeah, we went through. I kind of wrote a list of like questions for the midwife, and we talked through like what different reasons there would be for transfer. Things like if I wanted an epidural, if the cord prolapsed. Like I was asked a lot of questions, so I went through kind of every scenario. What would be category A emergency for the ambulance? What wouldn't be? Just so I felt like I was really informed about where I'd go, in what situation would I go to the midwife led unit versus what would I go to labour ward for, and just talk through those different pathways. And I think that's just really helpful to understand your options, and just have it in your mind ready, a little bit prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Don't know your options, don't have any at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like on the day thinking, oh my gosh, I'm transferring, and get scared. Like you don't want that fear factor, and there's no need to have that at all, because if you trust your midwives, which I really did, they've got it all under control, and they're 3 steps ahead thinking. So whatever you might need, they're going to be transferring you at the right time before it gets to an emergency scenario. I fully believe that.
Yeah.
To this day, and I don't think it ever would end up in emergency at all.
No, I think we're very lucky because, well, where we are, there's so many amazing hospitals. We're probably not more than 20 minutes away from somewhere.
No.
Should an unlikely event to be an emergency, but it's usually because a woman changes their mind, isn't it? Or she wants an epidural, or things just stall or slow down rather than a real emergency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
then
there's so many options for pain relief, like even just obviously using your natural hormones as well. And I had some paracetamol and then had gas and air. I could have had pethidine, but I chose not to have pethidine. That was just our personal choice. So there's so many options available to you at home as well. And then just knowing that if you do decide that I want to go in for an epidural, you can do. But even just the pool as well, and I kind of used it as a gradient. So I started with a TENS machine, then took some paracetamol, then had gas and air, and then really used the pool as kind of my last, when you're getting a bit tired. And it's just, it was, for me, it doesn't work for everyone. It was just like such like a big bear hug.
Yeah.
It was like when you're feeling a bit tired and you're like, oh, this is great.
Water, and I think it's good to get in the pool just when you're thinking, okay, I'm starting to think I can't do this anymore. Get in the pool at that point.
Yeah.
Best time, isn't it?
So just using your kind of ladder of all your different pain options. And we had things like, I'd ordered myself like a little spa kit, a little treat like that, having some really nice smells, having some really nice moisturizer, because all of that just helps you feel like really like cared for, relaxed. And the more you relax, the more your hormones, if like your oxytocin is flowing, the easier the birth is. So we just really used a lot of stuff like that, really.
It must be fantastic to get in your own bed at the end, snuggled up with little
Oh, it was so special, yeah, when the midwife stayed with us for a good like 2 hours, and made sure I'd had a drink, made sure we'd had something to eat, make sure we were really settled. And then you just all sitting, when me and my husband were sat in bed, and Ellen was in my husband's arms, and it was just so surreal. We were like, wow, we did a home birth, and she's here, she's safe. Yeah, it was really special.
Oh, I can imagine. I really feel it. Oh,
yeah, and they come back the next day. They leave you numbers if you need to call. So it's not like you feel like, oh, they've gone. What do I do now? And they could have come back at any point if we needed them. So yeah, the support is still there.
Yeah. And what would you say was the best thing for you about the home birth and for your partner, your husband? What does he really talk about home birth a lot now?
Yeah, I think for us it was just the space where we felt as well, like I guess with the home birth, your partner can have such an active role because he was filling up the pool, he could get snacks when he wanted, he was in his space as well. And I think for him, it made it a really calm, and also just, I guess, a bit of control for him as well in terms of what the process was. He was in control of the environment as well. So I think he felt a real part of it as well, an active part of the birth process. But yeah, for us, I think it's just having space and time to just be us, and not knowing we had to transfer, just going with it, knowing that we had 2 midwives. I think for me that was really reassuring. I'd have 2 midwives, one for me, one for Ellen, and they'd be in the room if I wanted them at all times. There wasn't any leaving. I guess it was just the whole thing.
I think it does change your dynamic when you're inviting midwives into your home as opposed to going into the hospital. Doesn't it kind of change the dynamic?
Yeah, they were so respectful. I wrote out a birth plan and they read it, and they were really respectful in every step. If something was going different to how I'd kind of, because it never goes to how you like it on paper. It was just a chat between us. What's working? What's the medical reason why we might want to do something? So Ellen was taking a while to come down, so we broke my waters. But again, that's something I'd said I didn't want, but we chatted about it. What was the reason? What was the kind of using that brains from the hypnobirthing, just going through kind of what's the risk, what's the benefits, what's the option of doing nothing. And at every step they were great, and we just chatted through each little thing. I had to have an in and out catheter to drain my bladder as well, just anything to help her come down a little bit. She was being a bit slow. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like we said before, we started recording, that is what makes a positive birth, isn't it? When you feel you knew what questions to ask, you felt involved in the process, so you could, yes, things didn't go how you expected them to go 100%, but at no point did you feel railroaded one way or the other. You were part of that process, understanding and asking questions, gathering information, and that's what makes a positive birth, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You've got the time. There was no they needed to rush out of the room and go anywhere. They were in the room, sat on the sofa. We chatted it through, and then we made a decision and went from there. Oh, hello, you're waking up.
Will you come join us, little Ellen? Oh, that's great. I'm trying to think of anything else we can.
Half still asleep.
Yeah, anything else we can say for anyone? I don't think so. We covered quite a lot, haven't we?
And then you get a beautiful little baby at the end of it. So
oh, look. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I just remember actually being quite sad when it was over, because it was just absolutely
magical.
And when I said that to my friends, they were like, we've never heard someone saying they was sad to have the birth finished.
Yeah.
But it was just such a positive experience, right from starting to talk it through with the midwives at the appointments, to chatting to friends, to thinking through what it would look like for us. And just turning our flat into somewhere where we were just going to become parents. And it was just our home was just that's where we were going to start a family. It was really lovely.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounds magical. It sounds really, really lovely. I'm so pleased for you.
Yeah, I think you've just got to think about what you need. What do you need? Even having nice snacks in, things like that.
Yeah.
Because about what I'd want to eat.
Yeah, all your favourite foods and stuff.
And
yeah, favourite foods, and be able to get in your own familiar bed, use your own bath, your shower, just
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much, Steph. And thanks for waking up at the last minute, Ellen, and joining us.
Enjoying it. I think she's asking for food now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to.
Oh no, it's lovely to chat to you.
It'd be lovely for other mums to watch. I'm sure they'll find it very reassuring. So thanks.
Yeah, and if they've got any questions, if you wanted to get in touch through you, then I'm totally happy to take questions or chat to other mums if they're thinking through things.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, lovely.
All right, have a lovely day.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.